on Crenshaw for the State of Black Women in LA. Broadcast live only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays, conversation with Atiba. Atiba is the former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, NBCSL. He's a strategic alliance consultant and president of Party Politics US. He's worked as a TV political contributor for BNC News, The Heat, In the Know with Mo, The Leslie Marshall Show, iHeartRadio, Government Exec, and 96.3 WHUR, and One America News Network. He most recently was a guest host on Rising, an American daily news and opinion web series produced by Washington, D.C.'s political newspaper, The Hill. In 2020, Atiba released his first novel, Saving Grace, a political thriller, and I understand now that he is in an airport joining us live on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Atiba, welcome forward to the show. Atiba will be right back, and also our very special guest. I'm particularly honored on this occasion to have Representative Amber M. Baker, who serves North Carolina's 72nd House District, representing Central Forsyth County, including parts of Winston-Salem. An accomplished educator and leader, she holds a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education from Winston-Salem State University, as well as a Master of Arts and a PhD in Educational Leadership and Administration from The Ohio State University. Before her election to the General Assembly in 2020, Dr. Baker dedicated over a decade of serving as principal of Kimberly Park Elementary School in Winston-Salem. In the legislature, she focuses on education, housing, and workforce development, reflecting her commitment to community advancement and empowerment. Dr. Baker, Representative Baker, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Well, we're family here, so you can dispense with all the titles. We are family, so it's just Amber right now, but I appreciate that, sir.
Amber, I appreciate you so much. Please just call me Jesse as well. Atiba, okay. Welcome forward to the show and our conversations that we have weekly with you. How are you, Atiba?
I'm good, Jesse. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great. Holding up. I'm strong. I'm feeling very, very good about the progress that we're making. Some decisions are being made across the country in the midterms, and they will have an impact on the resistance and the fight that we have going forward as Americans and as a community of resistance. And I'm so grateful that weekly I have a conversation, a very thought-provoking conversation with Atiba to discuss many of the issues that confront our community internally, but also some of the challenges that we confront externally as well. Atiba.
Jesse, I just want to say, first off, Amber, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sitting in the airport right now, and I want to send a big shout out to the TSA crew that are working here. You mentioned midterms that are working today, but they are not being paid, and they haven't been paid in over a month. So, I just have to say that the grace and the dignity in which the TSA agents that I just passed through just a little while ago, it just says a lot about us as Americans in terms of the better part of us as a country. It's a sad thing that there's the politics that's playing into this. But I just wanted to say that. And Jesse, I wanted to say to you, it's great to be here with you. I know, this week I got a chance to listen to you on, I believe it was Tuesday with your mom and with your sister, and it was a great show. I really enjoyed listening to it.
Atiba, I appreciate that very much. And thank you for bringing up the TSA agents. Not only are they laboring unpaid under extraordinary circumstances, we find ourselves right now engaged in a conflict in Iran. And as you know, Atiba, Iran is notorious for engaging in unconditional warfare, or I should say a different kind of warfare, a warfare where they are one with their religion. And the attack by the United States, not only on their country, but on their religious hierarchy, is a factor in what is destabilizing the entire global economy, global energy. And in this moment, Dr. Baker, I'm thinking that these questions of affordability, and I talked about it yesterday on our show, are tied in large measure to the Strait of Hormuz, in that so many products, Representative, are tied to petroleum, plastics, styrofoam, car tires. And when we talk about affordability in our communities, we talk about rising prices that range from eggs, fertilizer, and a key component of fertilizer comes from the Strait of Hormuz, which means that our food prices are going to go up and the quality of our lives are going to go up. I'm wondering, Amber, what are you experiencing from your own constituents about the cost of living and the difficulties?
Well, actually, the what we're experiencing in terms of what we're seeing with the unprovoked attacks against Iran is an exacerbation of what we've already seen with the tariffs, the refusal to pass Medicaid, to fund Medicaid, the SNAPS benefits. Here in North Carolina, we have a legislative body, which is not uncommon to what you're seeing around the nation, who's refusing to fully fund our public schools, who are tone deaf when it comes to the issues that are impacting our rural communities, whether we're talking about the products that they produce that are exported, or access to healthcare, failing schools. So this war really is just exacerbating what we see. Personally, I watched literally the gas go from $2.89 on one day, and the next day it was at $3.29. And now the prices here in Winston in particular has been as high as $3.89. So we know that whenever there's a crisis, because we have capitalists that take and they prey on this and do whatever they can to raise money, we are closely monitoring this here for price gouging and working really closely with our Attorney General to bring about any types of fines or anything that we can do to hold our businesses here local for dealing with people in an ethical kind of way.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come back, more conversation with Atiba and Representative Amber M. Baker from North Carolina. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable, all month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl. We your girls, want you to know that we love you.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon weave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. So, who's really paying the price? Scores of people dead and counting. Over 9,000 homes burned to the ground. Entire neighborhoods in Altadena gone. The Altadena Eaton Canyon fire is one of the deadliest fires in California history. And Edison's own CEO told investors the company has not identified any other possible source of ignition. In other words, they started it. So, what does the man at the top walk away with? Pedro Pizarro took home $16.6 million in cash, stock, and other compensation last year, a 20% raise from the year before. Let that sink in for a moment. A 20% raise, while families in Altadena are still sifting through the ash. Now, Edison will tell you they cut executive bonuses by 40%. Sounds like accountability, right? Wrong. 6 senior executives lost an estimated $2 million in bonuses. On the very same day, the company reported $4.5 billion in profit for 2025. $2 million out of $4.5 billion. That math ain't mathing. That's not a penalty. That's a rounding error. And here's the part that should really make your blood boil. Over $1.6 billion in damages from a previous fire that SCE Equipment started is now being covered not by the company, but by SCE customers just like you and me through rate hikes. The victims of utility failures are being asked to pay for the utility's failures. Sickening, shameful, disgraceful, reprehensible. You choose your own word. The people lost everything. The CEO got a raise. The company posted record profits. And your electricity bill is going up. As you well know, KBLA Talk 1580 has been out front and unapologetic about demanding accountability for SoCal Edison. But this is far from accountability. This is the system working exactly as it was designed, just not for you. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust Febreze car vent clips, featuring 3 distinct intensity settings, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing. Which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up, Oscar! La, 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 la.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And on Thought Provoking Thursdays, our regular conversation with Atiba. Our very special guest today is Representative Amber M. Baker, who was a principal of an elementary school in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Now in the legislature, she focuses on education, housing, and workforce development, reflecting, again, her commitment to community advancement and empowerment. Atiba, welcome forward to the show, and Representative Amber Baker, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. show as well.
Great being here.
Thank you so much.
Atiba, I know that we're going to pivot in a few moments to the questions of caregiving because of Amber's extraordinary work and personal work in that space. But I do want to spend some time probing Amber on the question of what the impact of federal and state budgets, particularly in North Carolina, are having on elementary education in the state of North Carolina and in her district. As a principal, former principal, she is uniquely positioned to share with us what it means to rise from having dealt with parents, having seen students, having seen overcrowded classrooms, when our government is spending nearly $1 billion a day fighting a war that the American people have not determined as just. Atiba, your initial thoughts and any questioning that you might initially have for Representative Amber Baker.
I mean, that's a great segue in terms of this particular part of the conversation. You know, everything that when in 2024, the first thing that I thought after the election was, okay, we're getting into 2025, and a lot of people kept asking me what I thought. And I kept saying, I'm going to be quiet. I want to sit and I don't wait and see where this is going. And it didn't take long for us to see that this is an assault on all Americans. And in terms of where we're going, we've never seen anything, at least in my lifetime, where we've seen the economy feel as if it's purposely being tanked. And in order to, Nelson Mandela said that you can tell a lot about a country by the way they treat their children and their elderly. And we're seeing a lot about our country in this process. So, in terms of, from that standpoint, Amber, what are you seeing? North Carolina is a big rural, has a lot of rural area, but it has a lot of farmland. Mm-hmm. And that my family, I often talk about my aunt being 106 years old, was born in North Carolina. My father grew up in North Carolina. What are some of the things now in terms of, and I thought it was very interesting that you painted the picture of the gas prices as they've increased. I also kind of want to also say that, the gas prices there are cheaper than a lot of other areas in the country. So that change that you all have seen is very important and hard. That's a hardship for people there in terms of getting food to urban areas, in terms of paying for gas, because the economy is not the same for people there. The wages are not the same there as it would be for someone living in Washington, D.C., for instance. So what are some of the things there, and I segue back to what Jesse was saying, what are some of the things that you're seeing in terms of affordability, and how is this impacting people, and how is it impacting the schools?
So one of the things that as I travel not only around my district, but I am also working to get Black legislators elected to the House. One of the things that I talk to our voters about and our constituents about is, while we need to pay attention to what's going on in DC, we absolutely cannot take our eyes off of what's happening in the state. And because our state has continually defunded public education and a push towards charter schools that now includes anybody, private schools, public charters, parochial schools. And so that is had a significant impact, not only on the crisis in schools, and let me just say this, we're the only state right now that does not have a budget. The only state that doesn't have a budget. So we know historically that there were these schools of separation created because white folks didn't want their kids to go to school in integrated schools. And so they created these private schools. That's what we're seeing here. We are seeing that we are near the bottom in terms of per pupil spending. We are near the bottom in terms of teacher pay. They have stripped master teachers' pay. They have continued to strip allotments. And so, of course, those class sizes continue to increase, and we are losing teachers to surrounding counties, because if they just hop over a district, they get all of their years of experiences, which leads to them getting an increase in pay. So most of my career, I've been an educator for over 30 years, and most of it has been in highly impacted schools. And we know that when something affects America, then you times that times 3 or 4, and it's going to be greater. So our schools that are historically in underfunded communities are bearing the brunt of that, whether we're talking about lack of funding to keep the schools up to standard, holding on to the teachers in terms of making sure that they have good pay. And so in terms of education, North Carolina is where we once was a beacon, right? We were the beacon. We were the places that companies wanted to move to because of the strong educational system. We are now fastly becoming one of the worst states in the nation because of how we deal with public education in particular. But we also saw this week where we are bringing more awareness to the fact that they have completely dismantled public education. So it's all intertwined. That's why people have to pay attention to what's happening nationally as well as what's happening in the state.
Amber, I'd like to follow up on that question by asking you, when you interact with other state legislators, not only in the state of North Carolina, but beyond the state of North Carolina, are you hearing and seeing similar problems? Is the discourse essentially the same?
Yes, particularly around the vouchers and the increase in public dollars going to private schools. A lot of times and oftentimes North Carolina is sort of the litmus test. If we can get it passed here, then more of our states, particularly our southern states, and I don't like to say red and blue states, I like to say Democratic-led and Republican-led states. So particularly in Republican-led states, a lot of what they try when they come back from their national convention with their marching orders, we see it here before we start to see it in other states. So I am working with our other legislative Black caucuses to kind of give them the playbook that we've been using to fight back.
Atiba, North Carolina is a bellwether.
Yeah, and Amber, you and I were talking yesterday about grassroots, and in terms of what we're seeing, in North Carolina. You also mentioned that you're trying to get more state legislators into the House. What are some of the things, and I always like to say that we can be doing to help you, because one of the things that I'm going to continue to repeat is that midterms effing matter. And the fact that we've got to vote in numbers that are too large to manipulate the outcome. But in order to do that, we've got to do things like what Jesse's dad did in 1984 in terms of leading efforts to register people to vote. What are some of the things that are happening there in North Carolina? What are some of the things that we can be talking about collectively in our respective states that can also be helpful in terms of maybe even creating an echo chamber that helps to move this from a grassroots standpoint up, so that people recognize that November 3rd, 2026 is a very important date for them to mark in their calendar and to march and go to vote?
Well, first of all, we must understand history. Reverend Jackson was the first, when I got to vote for president, he was the first person I had an opportunity to vote for as president. And I originally attended Howard, Jesse, and Santi and I are friends. She adopted me early on. And so we first must understand our history. And this idea of grassroots organizing is not new. I was on the bus when the students, when we organized the students to take them to Chicago to knock doors for Harold Washington. I worked on Maisie Woodruff's campaign when she ran as the first Black woman for county commissioners here. And she was always in community. We were always in community. So we've gotten away from that. And you can't dial it in. And that's what you and I were talking about yesterday. I'm sorry, there's not enough text you can send. There's not enough social media posts that you can post. There's not enough phone calls that you can send robo messages on. We have got to be boots on the ground. And I know that oftentimes, we raise this, or some, I have not been successful in raising large amounts of money. But I think when you help people to understand where those funds go to, whether you're purchasing materials to canvas with, or signs, or just the various things, transportation. I think people need to understand that there is nothing that's going to move a person more than, one, what have you done in community already? What do you continue to do? And if you're elected, how do you remain engaged? And we have to think differently about different demographics. Someone who's over 60 that's voting has very different needs than our newly 21-year-olds that vote. And so what have we done in terms of spending time to get to know how do we connect with them?
I want to comment on the historical context, because in this moment I'm reflecting that we are having a very important conversation, but it's also in the context of the post-Brown versus the Board of Education, the 1954 decision that ended segregation by law in the school, but it did nothing about property taxes and how the school funding formulas would be resolved or addressed going forward. And it seems to me that this is a conversation, Atiba, that did not take place before segregation, before desegregation. There were no white flight out of communities or teachers moving between districts and moving out of areas, or disparately impacted schools in communities that are overwhelmingly African American until after Brown versus the Board of Education. So before Brown versus the Board of Education, education was working for Americans when the standard was that we couldn't go to school. And then, of course, over time, from 1954 to the present, we've been having these conversations about vouchers, about school funding, about teacher pay, about equality, particularly as the school districts themselves become more and more African American. Class sizes become larger and larger. No new schools are being built on the scale to keep up with the amazing population of students that are moving through the schools. And when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580, I'm hoping that we can address the context within which race has played a role in the underfunding of schools and the quality of education for all citizens. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Representative Amber Baker and Atiba.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is set to visit Memphis, Tennessee on Monday to highlight the Memphis Safe Task Force.
I'm not excited about him coming to Memphis or anything else. I'm not excited about him being the president.
The White House says the effort has led to more than 7,100 arrests and helped locate 149 missing children since September, though community reaction remains mixed. HBCU Howard University is reacting after being featured in a BTS animated video. The preview highlights 7 Korean students at Howard in 1896 who helped record early music from Korea. The university says the moment reflects its global impact. And rapper Afro Man has won a defamation lawsuit filed by an Ohio sheriff's office over a music video using footage from a 2022 raid on his home. A jury cleared him on all counts, siding with his argument that the video stemmed from the incident itself. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For nearly 50 years, OPL Law has changed lives, restored futures, and delivered justice. When your world turns upside down after an accident, reputation and success matter. We're real people who fight for real people. OPLLaw.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are looking more and more like a serious contender in the Western Conference. They won their 7th straight game Wednesday night, a 124-116 win in Houston. 40 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists for Luka Doncic, 30 points for LeBron. LeBron made 13 of 14 shots. It was not a good night for the Clippers in New Orleans. The Clippers lost their 3rd straight game. New Orleans pulled away for a 124-109 victory. The Clippers are below 500 again at 34-35. For the first time in the history of the NCAA men's basketball tournament, 3 HBCU teams are competing in the first round: Tennessee State, Howard, and Prairie View A&M. Prairie View became the 3rd team Wednesday night when they beat Lehigh 67-55 in the play-in round. Before this year, 2 HBCU teams was the highest number that qualified in previous NCAA men's tournaments. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. So, who's really paying the price? Scores of people dead and counting. Over 9,000 homes burned to the ground. Entire neighborhoods in Altadena gone. The Altadena Eaton Canyon fire is one of the deadliest fires in California history. And Edison's own CEO told investors the company has not identified any other possible source of ignition. In other words, they started it. So what does the man at the top walk away with? Pedro Pizarro took home $16.6 million in cash, stock, and other compensation last year, a 20% raise from the year before. Let that sink in for a moment. A 20% raise, while families in Altadena are still sifting through the ash. Now, Edison will tell you they cut executive bonuses by 40%. Sounds like accountability, right? Wrong. 6 senior executives lost an estimated $2 million in bonuses. On the very same day, the company reported $4.5 billion in profit for 2025. $2 million out of $4.5 billion. That math ain't mathing. That's not a penalty. That's a rounding error. And here's the part that should really make your blood boil. Over $1.6 billion in damages from a previous fire that SCE Equipment started is now being covered not by the company, but by SCE customers just like you and me through rate hikes. The victims of utility failures are being asked to pay for the utility's failures. Sickening, shameful, disgraceful, reprehensible. You choose your own word. The people lost everything. The CEO got a raise. The company posted record profits, and your electricity bill is going up. As you well know, KBLA Talk 1580 has been out front and unapologetic about demanding accountability for SoCal Edison. But this is far from accountability. This is the system working exactly as it was designed, just not for you. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, KBLA Talk 1580 host and African Focus Incorporated cultural ambassador. You probably know by now that every year our two organizations team up to lead a trip to the motherland. This June will be our 8th African Focus Trailblazers Tour, and it's not too late to join us. But if you've been thinking of going with us, now is the time to sign on before prices go up. Our current deadline is March 20th. Join us as we travel to a country widely considered one of Africa's most underrated destinations, Zambia, home to the towering Victoria Falls and the bustling capital city, Lusaka. Enjoy a visit to Botswana, known for its pristine natural beauty and stunning Southern African wildlife. We travel in comfort with luxury accommodations, a variety of fun activities, and delicious dining. We do service with charitable work at a school and an orphanage, and we expand our horizons with cultural and historical excursions. To sign up now before our March 20th deadline, please call African Focus Incorporated at 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300. Or check out africanfocus.org. Whether it's in the community or traveling the globe, we move as family. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Let's go.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. King Quality drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're having our regular conversation with Atiba on Thought-Provoking Thursdays, and our very special guest is Representative Amber M. Baker, who serves North Carolina's 72nd House District, representing Central Forsyth County, including parts of Winston-Salem. Representative Baker, just before the break, I was sharing with our listeners that the questions of funding schools of equal high quality really didn't occur until we showed up to go to school. And it seems to me that this trending discussion about vouchers, about teacher pay, about smaller class sizes, about the quality of education, particularly in an economy that is now changing, that includes artificial intelligence, it seems to me that when it comes to funding our schools, the nation is once again turning its back. Representative Baker.
So I would just take a little bit of an exception to that, in a sense that our schools were never fully funded. And what Brown versus Board did was it totally dismantled the infrastructure for the schools we already had. Had they just funded us and left us alone, it would have never been about integration. So once we integrated, all of our neighborhood schools were dismantled, our administrators were displaced, our teachers were either laid off or dispersed. So they really caused a dissolution of what we had that was working. We just needed the funds to continue to properly fund our students. And so what you started to see, you are absolutely correct in the sense that the white flight occurred because they didn't want us there anymore than we wanted to be there. And so that's when you started to see your private schools pop up. That's when you started to see your Christian schools pop up. So I would just contend that in terms of Black pupil spending, it was never equal. It was never equitable. And so what we're seeing now is a rise of what was occurring pre-1954. In addition, what we also are seeing is a higher number of criminalization of students, higher number of students being funneled into special education. You are seeing higher suspension rates, more children that are being assigned to alternative schools. And I will, in full transparency, there is no area of education I haven't touched. So I've worked in private schools. I know that they have gatekeeping mechanisms in place so that they don't have to accept our students. Charter schools, I ran a charter school for 3 years in Minnesota. And I know that that is a reasonable alternative, but it is so hard to take and put a measure against a newly formed school to a historical institution and then compare it as apples and apples. So what we need to do is, I tell people you can live wherever you want to live. But once we started moving out of community, we also started to take away our resources, whether we're talking about financial resources, whether we're talking about cultural capital. And so we have got to come back together and band back together. And I think that that is part of what's contributing to the demise of what we see happening. And we're looking to the government to fix a problem that they created.
I think that's a very insightful point, Atiba. She raised a very important point.
Yeah, and I think, I'm reading a book right now about the Montgomery bus boycott, and I feel like it's just so relevant to what we see that's going on today. It's by Joanne Robinson. It's called The Montgomery Bus Boycott and the Women Who Started It. And I bring it up because one of the things that she, and in the book that I listened to before that about Dr. King, was they talked about how there was an increase in domestic violence, an increase in crime that was based on the segregation of the buses. That they could tell that people not being able to vent their frustrations anywhere else. That once they were going through what they were going through, just going to school, going to work, and coming home, that there was increased violence within their homes, which makes me think about what we see happening today. There has been, for more than 30 years, a lack of, I want to say respect, but lack of appreciation for the value of education. Part of that, I think, also when we see and look at the urban areas, like for instance, I grew up in Washington, D.C. during the height of deaths, where D.C. was called the capital of murder, the murder capital of the world. And when I'm looking at or hearing what you're saying, and how we started the conversation talking about affordability, and now we're talking about education, that the two, they go together.
That's correct.
And we keep trying to address the issues of whether or not it's healthcare or education or access. We keep looking at it in silos, when really it's a human issue that is affecting not just African American community, it's affecting all these different communities in this country. And it's one common 0.5% that is the byproduct of the reason why that is happening. And while all these things are happening and our attention is diverted, the back of the door of the bank is open and all of our money is going out of it. And so we never can really figure out or fix these problems if we're like always running to this dumpster fire trying to put it out, and then we have this fire and this fire, until we look at it holistically and recognize that the issue of education in America is one that is affecting all of us, and that none of us will get ahead. None of us will be able to have money in our pockets if we continue fighting each other instead of recognizing we have a common issue.
We have about a minute before we come forward. Representative Baker, your response?
I'll just say this real quick, and then we can pick it back up on the other side of the break. First of all, public education as we know it was never designed for anyone other than elite white males. Let's be mindful of that. It was never intended to educate the masses, not women, not blacks, no. The other part is, you're absolutely right, Atiba. That is why when I decided to run, that my focus was on education, on housing, on workforce development, and on access to social skills. Because once you give a person an equitable place to live, give them good quality housing, give them a pathway out of poverty, and then give them access to the social underpinnings that help them move forward, then you will see an increase in schools.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. These are our conversations with Atiba, and we're blessed to have Representative Amber Baker, who serves North Carolina's 72nd House District. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned. Homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized. The families who watched their inheritance disappear. The wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. The midterm election campaign season is here now. The 2028 presidential election is right around the corner. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. It's all in for 2026 and 2028. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In our final segment, our conversations with Atiba, former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, has brought with him a very, very special guest, Representative Amber M. Baker. The Honorable Amber Baker serves North Carolina's 72nd House District. Representative Baker, I'd like to pivot to caregiving in our final segment. And as usual, our guests have the final 3 minutes, a hard stop at the top of the hour, for a word of hope to the nation. Representative Baker, I had the most amazing experience with my siblings for the last 4 or 5 years to caregive for my father, and only to stumble upon numbers that the Affordable Care Act and other healthcare programs at the local and federal level don't even take into account what we go through. The conservative numbers are about $550 billion a year go towards caregiving. People have to change their careers. They have to change their life options. They plan their whole lives to be lawyers, to be doctors, to be just ordinary citizens who are doing an extraordinary job to keep our nation moving forward. But then all of a sudden, there's an illness in our family, someone that we love and care for. The liberal numbers, somewhere around $650 billion a year, just to provide for people that we care about, and it never shows up in the national or in the state debate. Please share with us your thoughts and your experiences with caregiving.
Yeah, my mother was just shy of turning 90. She passed in July of last year, July 7th, and she would have been 90 in September 12th. and was totally independent, had been very smart with her money, and at 85, almost 85, still lived alone, handled her affairs, volunteered, did community service. 2 weeks earlier, we had driven to Ohio to celebrate her sister's 90th birthday. She helped me drive. And literally on a dime's notice, had a series of mini strokes that took her completely out. She didn't have any paralysis, but it affected her speech. And she was diagnosed with vascular dementia, and so was not prepared in terms of what that needed to look like. So had to do a hard pause. I did have other siblings. They lived in another state. But as the female, the only sister, the expectation was that I do the caregiving. And so what I then began to focus on was not only putting together a caregiver plan for her. Thank God my mother had a good business sense. So all of her affairs, her power of attorney, her living will, her will, all of that was intact. What we are seeing now, which is very closely tied to aging parents, is loss of property, loss of our generational wealth. And so as a legislator, now my mother made too much money to qualify for Medicaid, and her Medicare and secondary insurance covered a lot of her medical stay. But when it came to caregiving or finding someone that could come and sit with her at the house, or someone to help with just care, that had to be a private cost that was absorbed. And I like to tell people, as much as people think that those of us who serve in elected office get rich off of this, I actually took a pay cut to answer yes to God calling me to do this. So it was already difficult for me to try to manage my own household. And as her expenses increased, then I had to figure out how to make sure my mom was taken care of. So it's important that we look at legislation that gives us that gap care for those people who may make too much money on paper, but in reality, we want to ensure that the quality of care for them is high. We also want to make sure that we are talking to our family members about putting a care plan in place. We want to make sure that we are ensuring that their properties are protected, moving assets into trusts, making sure that there's clear expectation about who will be the executor in the passing, who will be the power of attorney, who will have the healthcare power of attorney. And when there's multiple siblings, I would strongly encourage that the siblings come together and decide how they're going to divvy up those responsibilities. It's a lot on an individual to try to figure that out. And depending on the varying levels of expertise and education and experience, it might be some gaps and holes there. But I will say also on a personal note that we need to make peace with the trauma of our childhood in order to be good caregivers, right? So we need to make sure that we are in good spaces before we have to make some decisions about our parents. So we need to take care of ourselves physically. We need to take care of ourselves mentally. We need to make sure our affairs are in order. And we know that mental health is not spoke of enough. We need to make sure that we have processes in place for people to be able to access that. I didn't have anywhere to go. And so I had to kind of figure that all out on my own. So I guess I would leave with these top tips. One, as a child of an aging parent, make sure your affairs are in order, right? Because you can't take on somebody else's affairs when your affairs are not in order. Two, make sure that you are forcing your parents to talk to you about their business. If you have older parents, they lock their information away in a vault, and trying to get that information is like pulling teeth. 3, that we make sure we protect our generational wealth. So many people lose their homes with all of this equity in it. And 4, I tell people that a lot of times legislation comes from people saying, have you thought about this? I was working with a legislator out of Oklahoma who was able to get some legislation passed where they could actually write off Uber for their parents. I was like, what? So it's things like that that we need to also talk to our legislators about, because we are faced with aging generations, and 3, now 4 generations of people all kind of dealing with aging parents and then older kids.
I think that's an amazing word of hope. Atiba, we have about 1 minute and 30 seconds. Let me give you the balance of the time.
No, I just, I actually would like to give it back to Amber. I just want to say, all these issues, I think this deserves to have a national town hall, and maybe it starts within our cities and districts, but this deserves to have a national town hall conversation. And, we have these type of issues and we continue talking about them. I'm going to keep saying this every week, Jesse. Midterms effing matter. We have to vote in numbers too large to manipulate the outcome, because we need to have people that are there who can address these type of issues.
We need a Caregivers Protection Act of 2027 when the new Congress convenes. On a national scale, this is a problem that the American people, every single one of us, are dealing with it. We're not talking about it. It hasn't come to the forefront of the issues that confront this election season. Representative Amber M. Baker has brought a particular focus to it, a personal focus to it. And just as sure as I'm sitting here, if you have aging parents, you are about to confront this issue, and it is going to change the trajectory of every plan that you've had. I want to thank Atiba for our conversation today, and Representative Baker. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump is set to visit Memphis, Tennessee on Monday to highlight the Memphis Safe Task Force.
I'm not excited about him coming to Memphis or anything else. I'm not excited about him being the president.
The White House says the effort has led to more than 7,100 arrests and helped locate 149 missing children since September, though community reaction remains mixed. HBCU Howard University is reacting after being featured in a BTS animated video. The preview highlights 7 Korean students at Howard in 1896 who helped record early music from Korea. The university says the moment reflects its global impact. And rapper Afro Man has won a defamation lawsuit filed by an Ohio sheriff's office over a music video using footage from a 2022 raid on his home. A jury cleared him on all counts, siding with his argument that the video stemmed from the incident itself. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For nearly 50 years, OPL law has changed lives, restored futures, and delivered justice. When your world turns upside down after an accident, reputation and success matter. We're real people who fight for real people. OPLlaw.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are looking more and more like a serious contender in the Western Conference. They won their 7th straight game Wednesday night, a 124-116 win in Houston. 40 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists for Luka Doncic, 30 points for LeBron. LeBron made 13 of 14 shots. It was not a good night for the Clippers in New Orleans. The Clippers lost their 3rd straight game. New Orleans pulled away for a 124-109 victory. The Clippers are below 500 again at 34-35. For the first time in the history of the NCAA men's basketball tournament, 3 HBCU teams are competing in the first round: Tennessee State, Howard, and Prairie View A&M. Prairie View became the 3rd team Wednesday night when they beat Lehigh 67-55 in the play-in round. Before this year, 2 HBCU teams was the highest number that qualified in previous NCAA men's tournaments. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Old-fashioned soul.
Where you eating at? Hi, I'm Greg Doolin, inviting you to a special celebration of Women's History Month. Join KBLA Talk 1580 for its annual symposium, The State of Black Women in LA. broadcast live from Doolin Soul Food on Crenshaw, Friday, March 27th, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., moderated by Dominique DePrima. And yes, breakfast is just $15.80. Come get fed twice. Your stomach and your mind will thank you. We'll see you Friday morning, March 27th, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. at Doolin Soul Food on Crenshaw for the State of Black Women in LA. Broadcast live only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show in our second hour. As we enter the World House, Dr. Johnny Mack, social entrepreneur and scholar practitioner, with an expertise in subject areas, peace, conflict, and social change movements, traveled extensively throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, working in the fields of peace, development, conflict, and nonviolent social change. Dr. Mack's seminal work, After Confrontation, Then What?, challenges the putative logic of nonviolent social change theory and practice. Particularly, he articulates nonviolence beyond the traditional understanding, of nonviolent struggle as principally nonviolent resistance. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. It's great to be here.
I'm particularly honored you're here. We had a wonderful conversation in the last hour with Representative Amber Baker, who covered issues of education all the way to caregiving. And I can't once again get my mind off of Beyond Vietnam, the resources that led her to leave teaching in public schools and become a state representative. She recognized that there was only so much she could do as a principal. And then she found herself having to fight and run for state legislative office and essentially fight for public schools from the distribution of resources phase of the process. Johnny, your thoughts on Dr. King's vision for education?
King was, of course, as a rights leader, understood education as a fundamental human right. And of course, during his time, and that period of the African-American struggle against what we would call American apartheid, education was not equally accessible to all Americans, particularly African-Americans. And so our struggle, that struggle largely led by King and those of that cadre of civil rights leaders, sought equal opportunity, not only in employment and in housing, but in education as well. Of course, education is a fundamental right, because of what it represents and leads to in terms of full participation, Jesse, in society, and particularly in the American experience, as we often like to call it. And so King was profoundly, I think, concerned about, and would be still today, the state of the education system and equal access at all levels of the education process.
Johnny, Dr. Baker mentioned in her interesting theory that she proposed, and I know it's more than a theory because she's actually lived it, that when we were in segregation, our schools were functioning fundamentally different than the idea of desegregation. And in the moment, I was thinking that during the average educational life of a student, if I am a parent and my child is entering the 9th grade, knowing that there's been a century and a half of segregated schools or even longer before Brown versus the Board of Education, I'm saying to myself, listen, I don't have time for the federal government or the state government to make my school over here in the neighborhood what it's like on the other side of town. Over there, they have Olympic-sized swimming pools, tennis courts. They're training students to go to the Olympics, to fulfill their potential between the grades of 9 and 12 or even earlier. So the movement then was to move students to the best schools available, the best public schools available, because the governments, both federal and state, had not provided us with the facilities, with the resources necessary to even be competitive on our side of town. So by definition, separate was unequal. Mm-hmm. And we needed to move with all deliberate speed because, hey, you know, if you're learning on a laptop on one side of town, or you're taking courses in artificial intelligence and you're a high school student, and on my side of town, you know, there are pages missing in the book, and it's being handed down from one class, graduating class to the next, because we're not having adequate or equal facilities, and we don't even have coaches. We don't have any sports programs. That we are systematically deprived of the kind of education that is being provided for students on the other side of town. I get it, that we needed to fund schools in our community. The government had resisted that prior to Brown versus the Board of Education. And when we finally moved over to the desegregated school systems, all of a sudden they moved out, and we ended up with some of our public schools here are as old as Brown versus the Board of Education and before. They're big, massive structures and buildings that were once essentially all white academies, that did not keep up with what smaller class sizes, private schools, charter schools ultimately began doing in the last 20 or 30 years of educational development. And so we still find ourselves disproportionately separate and unequal because we're not preparing our children for the modern world and the modern economy. And I want to say it this way. I had a great privilege over the last year or so of spending time with the superintendent in Kankakee County, Illinois, Dr. Gennaro Walters. And she said, Jesse, fundamentally, the curriculum in public schools has not changed in 100 years. We're not training our young people to prepare them for the AI economy. We're not training young people for the growing economies that are taking place. And even though we give them a baccalaureate degree, or as my father would say, give them a degree in one hand, but also give them a voter registration card in the other hand, they're still not leaving schools until the curriculum itself, as well as the facilities, are completely re-advanced. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're having a conversation with Johnny Mack in the World House. More with Johnny Mack when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's Afternoon Drive Time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable, all month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. Don't you know that we love you?
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra ultra strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon weave texture, it's the best. Study up, teacher lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin ultra strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust Febreze car vent clips, featuring 3 distinct intensity settings, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing. Which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up Oscar!
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is dedicated to inspiring youth and resilience through storytelling, arts, filmmaking, and enrichment programs for youth and families in under-resourced communities and system-impacted individuals. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free and low-cost arts programs to youth and families from under-resourced communities, both system-impacted youth and those affected by the incarceration of a loved one. 1 in 43 children in America have a parent incarcerated. 70% of those children are expected to end up in prison. Through filmmaking, animation, theater, and writing, they help young people express themselves, build confidence, and imagine new possibilities. Beyond the arts, they offer financial literacy workshops, emergency support, and scholarships. Because thriving takes more than talent, it takes access. To learn more about the impact of Michael Daughters Foundation and how you can be a part of the movement, please visit their website, michaelsdaughterfoundation.com. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very regular and special guest and contributor in the World House is none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the civil rights movement. He explicates Dr. King's logic of nonviolence using King's call to restructure the social edifice, and particularly its triple evils of racism, poverty, and militarism, with a revolution of values that is effected through peaceable power. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Johnny, we're 19 days into this Iranian conflict, and the early estimates of what it's costing the United States per day is $1 billion. That's $19 billion. Now, when we hit day 50 of this conflict, that will be $50 billion, and it will last for a while. It is not going anywhere. I'm just wondering, in real time, when we think about the World House, Dr. Baker could use $1 billion in the state of North Carolina to fix the state's public education system. And Dr. King, in the Beyond Vietnam speech, talked about money being spent abroad that should be spent on programs of social uplift here in the United States. I'm sure that Dr. Baker could have, with $1 billion grant from the federal government to the state legislature for the purposes of creating equal high quality schools, would go a long way towards solving in the next generation social ills within the state of North Carolina. And I can imagine that similar ills could be solved in other states if, in fact, the federal government prioritized in the World House studying war no more and bringing the resources home to the young children and to the people and to the parents and to the families and to the communities that need them. Dr. Mack.
Yeah. So starting with your last comment, Jesse, prioritizing is the key word. Who gets prioritized? What gets prioritized? And why does it get prioritized? It seems today, particularly regarding the crisis that we call a war. The priority is whatever has driven this administration and its partner in the war to the conflict that will spend, as you say.
You mean the Israelis?
I do mean the Israelis in terms of the war between Iran, the U.S. and Israel. As you know, and I'm sure our listeners know, this is a war that was not planned for, that did not receive the requisite debate in Congress. It was not authorized by Congress. And now the president is seeking $200 billion to continue or in furtherance of the conflict. And who knows where those dollars or that request will go should that $200 billion be granted, even beyond that. And yes, imagine what can be done in funding quality schools, more teachers, the requisite resources that students need in today's economy, what it would do in educating children. It's a huge problem.
So if I were president of the United States and I made a fiscal request of the Congress to fund every state with an additional $4 billion a year to address disparities in education, to take schools in barrios, ghettos, and trailer parks and rebuild the infrastructure to train teachers, to put teachers back to work, to pay them commensurate with what they deserve and the sacrifices, of course, that they are making, you're telling me that the priority has shifted to the Strait of Hormuz. And Dr. King understood that the resources that Dr. Baker needs in North Carolina, that Kamala Gadot needs in the state of California, that Chris Welch needs in the state of Illinois, are presently being dropped on the people of Iran.
Well, it's an incredibly awful way to characterize the reality of the war, isn't it? But that's exactly what's happening. Rather than dropping them into the minds, those resources into the minds of young people, of children, K through 12, for example, they're being dropped as bombs throughout Iran and countries throughout the Middle East. What kind of insanity is this, Jesse, right? I guess that's the point of the conversation. And what do we do about it?
Well, let's turn our attention to what we do about it. The midterms are here. These issues are now front and center. They're knocking on the doors of every single American. If the Congress of the United States, I'm assuming under the leadership of Mike Johnson, that we're looking at a MAGA vote to support the president's wishes in Iran. But I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this this speculative assertion that a $200 billion request to fight Iran is going to have a healthy number of Democrats who are supportive of that as well. I mean, this is a civilizational crisis where the Congress of the United States is going to want to be seen on the side of one of the most influential lobbying organizations in the country, and that is the American Israeli Political Action Committee.
Well, you know, Jesse, again, the issue is what do we do about it? And not only what, but who? Who do we look to? And I think you hit the nail on the head in large part when you speak to the idea that with midterm elections, we have the opportunity to decide who will lead, particularly in the case of Congress, this nation, and provide the resources and hold accountable this administration to how our resources, American resources, are being spent. is incredibly important. We always say that this election is the most important election of our time. And it seems as though as things get worse, Jesse, each election becomes even that more important. That's the reality that we live in today. And so we ordinary citizens, must take charge of our lives and the life of our communities, particularly at the ballot box. But not only there, our voices have to match our votes. And we have to speak out against what we know it doesn't work for the quality of life of ordinary citizens, not only in these United States, but throughout the World House.
Towards building the World House, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., when he made this argument in 1967, he became an increasingly unpopular figure. And it's hard to imagine that there are members of Congress who are prepared to make the same argument in the modern context without recognizing that making the argument is going to make them particularly unpopular this time. I mean, we are bringing Americans home in body bags, Johnny. That's the political reality. Share with us your thoughts on the transformation of values that Dr. King is talking about. We see that many of these weapons were developed to fight the Russians. We have, as far as I can tell, maybe I'm missing something here. I don't think we fired a single Cold War weapon at the Russians. We've developed some of the most sophisticated weaponry and technology in the history of mankind, preparing for a war with the Russians. And yet people who have sticks and stones are being the recipients of, $4 million Tomahawk missiles. I mean, they're the recipients of massive battleships and submarines. And there's even talk, Johnny, of boots on the ground for people who only have AK-47s. And it just seems to me that, this question of racism, while it's sitting right there in front of us, these are brown people in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Iran, throughout the world, that we are pointing the most sophisticated weapons known to man in their direction, while ignoring the fact that the unparalleled nature of the destruction that we're wreaking is largely against brown people. Come on, Johnny, talk to me.
Well, no, of course, King's three evils were poverty, racism, and militarism. And how relevant are they today? Poverty, racism, and militarism is what we're experiencing and what this conversation is largely about, Jesse. People of color, if we can use that term, are the objects of this poverty, of this racism and militarism, as you point out, in these wars that are taking place in today's world. And your original question was, what are the values that King was saying we must revolutionize the world with, to create the World House with? And those values were very simple: that human dignity, every human having the same and equal dignity and worth was the first value. And the second was liberty, that is the freedom to exercise that human dignity, to realize one's full potential. This is grade school stuff, Jesse. There's no rocket science to these values. We learn in grade school that we all have the same quality of human existence and dignity, and keep our hands to ourselves, and we should have the freedom to realize our full potential. But Jesse, it's the third value. It's the third value that we most often overlook and never talk about. And that third value is simply community. That is, if we're going to exercise our human dignity in liberty, then we have to do that in the context of community, because my dignity and my liberty depends upon your dignity and your liberty. We can apply that to groups as well. If one group is to enjoy dignity and liberty to realize their greatest potential, to make all that they can make, be that all they could be, then all other groups must also enjoy and share that same opportunity. And that's this value of community. But no, we focus on primarily this individualistic value that I get all that I can, and you have to you get all you can if you can. And we live in a world where the social frameworks are not equal. They are not just.
Johnny, at this hour, there's no Secretary of Education who's arguing for $200 billion, $4 billion per state, provide equal high quality education for all of the American people. That's not happening.
No.
At this particular hour in the United States, there is no Secretary of State who is peaceably approaching diplomacy nonviolently for the purposes of bringing about a world community through international governing bodies, the United Nations, or even the United States acting unilaterally or bilaterally towards peace and settling peace in a region. And so that leaves us with Dr. King's final point, that I have to come to terms with the idea that my nation is the most violent nation, purveyor of violence in the world. I mean, I don't know a better way of saying it than to quote another aspect of the speech, that American violence is, I don't hear it rolling off the tongues of enough professors and scholars and preachers and politicians that we are the most violent nation in the history of the world, and we solve the very problems that Dr. King thought needed to be resolved peaceably at the end of a barrel. Johnny, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More on the World House with Johnny Mack. Very, very interesting conversation in light of what's taking place around the world. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. President Trump invoked Pearl Harbor while discussing U.S. airstrikes on Iran during a meeting with Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi in the Oval Office.
Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay, why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay.
He made the remark when asked why allies like Japan were not notified ahead of the strikes. A House committee has advanced a bill to shut down D.C.'s traffic camera program, passing it in a 21-19 vote. The bill's sponsor says the cameras are mainly used to generate revenue, while Black Mayor Muriel Bowser and city leaders argue they improve public safety. In Baltimore, Maryland's Black Mayor Brandon Scott has announced the city's annual spring cleanup and day of service set for Saturday, April 25th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Residents and groups are encouraged to register by calling 311 or visiting the city's website. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For nearly 50 years, OPL Law has changed lives, restored futures, and delivered justice. When your world turns upside down after an accident, reputation and success matter. We're real people who fight for real people. OPLLaw.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Heading out of town this spring? Metro makes getting to LAX easier than ever. Just take the C or K train lines to the new LAX Metro Transit Center. Then catch a free shuttle straight to your terminal. Easy, affordable, stress-free. Travel smart. Go Metro.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, KBLA Talk 1580 host and African Focus Incorporated cultural ambassador. You probably know by now that every year our two organizations team up to lead a trip to the motherland. This June will be our 8th African Focus Trailblazers Tour, and it's not too late to join us. But if you've been thinking of going with us, now is the time to sign on before prices go up. Our current deadline is March 20th. Join us as we travel to a country widely considered one of Africa's most underrated destinations, Zambia, home to the towering Victoria Falls and the bustling capital city, Lusaka. Enjoy a visit to Botswana, known for its pristine natural beauty and stunning Southern African wildlife. We travel in comfort with luxury accommodations, a variety of fun activities, and delicious dining. We do service with charitable work at a school and an orphanage, and we expand our horizons with cultural and historical excursions. To sign up now before our March 20th deadline, please call African Focus Incorporated at 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300. Or check out africanfocus.org. Whether it's in the community or traveling the globe, we move as family. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Let's go.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage career track jobs. The LA Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. And they are advocating for a fair deal for black workers in the new Los Angeles City Charter. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing, or learn about union apprenticeship programs and trade registries, please visit lablackworkercenter.org. That's lablackworkercenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis and build a more equitable Los Angeles. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Our very special regular contributor in this hour is none other than the brilliant Johnny Mack. Dr. Mack is a social entrepreneur and a scholar practitioner. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Dr. King's work, The Triple Evils, Dr. King's Peaceable Power as a direct structural and cultural nonviolence, and correlating strategic, conscientious, and cultural action correlates. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me, Jesse.
Johnny, I want to talk for a moment about expiration date on this experiment. From Brown versus Board of Education to the present, we are looking at Second Reconstruction and what's left of it. And this experiment largely brought forward by Brown versus the Board of Education, which isn't just about education. I mean, it desegregated buses, corporate boardrooms, every aspect, desegregated the Congress of the United States with the Voting Rights Act of 1965, a critical piece of legislation. It brought about the American Disabilities Act. It brought about even short white men in Alabama who could not serve as state troopers in the state of Alabama because Alabama, in order to be a state trooper, you had to be 6 foot tall or higher. Well, after we passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, even short white men could appeal to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and say, hey, I'm being discriminated against because I'm little bitty itty bitty, but I want to be a state police officer. And they had to strike down the provision of the requirement that allowed short white men to not be state police officers. Johnny, in this moment, I feel like we've been integrating ourselves into a burning house.
To a burning house. Well, there are many ways to extend the metaphor, Jesse. I'm amused a bit by your examples, but let's go back to and tie your example to this idea of the U.S. being the greatest purveyor of violence. We went by that just a bit too fast. Remember that we're in the middle of the Vietnam War when King makes this statement in his Beyond Vietnam speech at Riverside Church. And he is, yes, principally talking about the bombs, as you said earlier, being dropped in Vietnam and elsewhere throughout that region. But King is brilliantly tying these three triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism. So while King is referring to militarism when he talks about the greatest purveyor of violence, it is not that only. He is connecting militarism to poverty and racism at the same time.
So poverty as violence and racism as violence.
As violence, and equally as violence. And so if the U.S. is the greatest purveyor of militarism as a form of violence, then it is equally the greatest purveyor of violence when it comes to poverty and racism. We think that through. It's a very profound and important thought, Jesse, when we brag about the United States of America being the preeminent state in the world, the greatest power and the greatest ability, et cetera, et cetera. We fail to mention and remember King's concern that we are also the greatest purveyor of all forms, Jesse Jackson, of violence.
Johnny, you got that right there was so heavy and so deep that it's going to take me a minute to process it. Now, racism as violence, violence without a budget, but violence nonetheless. Poverty in need of a budget, but violence nonetheless. And nearly $1 trillion budget advanced by this administration in this fiscal year for multiple wars on multiple fronts at the same time. There's a biblical scripture that says, where our treasury is, our hearts will follow. It does not say where our hearts are, our treasury will follow. Obviously, my heart is with the end of racism. It is with the end of poverty, and it is with the end of militarism. But there's no correlating budget to end these particular violent threats to American culture as there is towards the destruction and the accumulation of natural resources from the poorest of the poor nations on planet Earth. Johnny, how do we overcome this?
Well, we approached that answer just before the break, and that is the election that's coming up this year in terms of midterms, and changing the trajectory of the nation requires changing our own consciousness first, Jesse. Our own consciousness, how we think about these issues. We don't think about poverty as a form of violence. We don't think about racism as a form of violence. And we have, generally speaking, no notion of what structural violence is. Sociologists call these forms of violence structural. That is, they are embedded in the woof and warp of the fabric of the world house. Please, Jesse, go ahead.
Johnny, you know what we see? We see eggs. We see bacon.
Yes.
We see rent. We see our health care.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't connect these issues of affordability to the Strait of Hormuz.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I mean, we don't connect these issues to Caracas. I mean, these issues, these continents that you've traveled, these people that you've met, this extraordinary explorative work that you engage in, the transformation in values, I think that Dr. King is talking about, is the recognition of the interrelatedness of reality.
That's right.
That you don't get to, your eggs are supposed to be expensive if you don't have a position on what's taking place in Iran. Your bacon is supposed to be high. And your gas is going to be $10 a gallon until you figure it out. That you're connected to those people in that part of the world that too share your struggle and share your sacrifice. Dad figured that out. But maybe $7 a gallon of gas will be the wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
But something tells me it's just pressure on the U.S. government to find ways to bring the gas price down, and you're still not thinking about what we are doing to raise the price of gas in the world, what we're doing in the world. And so, in my opinion, even watching the strategic attacks by Iran in this conflict, it is definitely aimed at getting the world's attention on the cost of living. You're going to pay for this war. And you're going to feel it in your eggs. You're going to feel it in your bacon. You're going to feel it in your ham sandwich. You're going to feel it in your corn on the cob. And until there's a revolution of values that Dr. King talks about, so that you can see that what our country is doing around the world is so deeply troubling that until you wake up to the idea that there is an interrelatedness between all men and all women and all parts of the world, and that, as Gandhi said, there is enough resources in the world to meet all of the people's needs, but there's simply not enough to meet everyone's greed.
That's right. And, you know, Jesse, what you're saying brings to my mind King's statement: we are inextricably tied in a network of mutuality. That which affects you directly is going to affect me indirectly, and vice versa. You know, Jesse, I think the American people, and I mean that literally the way it should be understood. The American people, all of us, red and yellow, black and white, right? Not just any particular group of people within these United States. I think that U.S. citizens are feeling the realities of this war, and really what's been behind this, the war, the complementarity to this war, to this war and other wars throughout the world, and that is the administration's use of tariffs.
Johnny?
Yes.
When we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580, more with Johnny Mack, we're going to talk about these tariffs and the complementary impact of a different form of violence. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. the right fit awaits. Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free, and you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit Tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is dedicated to inspiring youth and resilience through storytelling, arts, filmmaking, and enrichment programs for youth and families in under-resourced communities and system-impacted individuals. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free and low-cost arts programs to youth and families from under-resourced communities, both system-impacted youth and those affected by the incarceration of a loved one. 1 in 43 children in America have a parent incarcerated. 70% of those children are expected to end up in prison. Through filmmaking, animation, theater, and writing, they help young people express themselves, build confidence, and imagine new possibilities. Beyond the arts, they offer financial literacy workshops, emergency support, and scholarships. Because thriving takes more than talent, it takes access. To learn more about the impact of Michael Daughters Foundation and how you can be a part of the movement, please visit their website, michaelsdaughterfoundation.com. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage career track jobs. The LA Black Workers Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. And they are advocating for a fair deal for black workers in the new Los Angeles City Charter. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing, or learn about union apprenticeship programs and trade registries, please visit lablackworkercenter.org. That's lablackworkercenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis and build a more equitable Los Angeles. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. The Jackson Jr. Show.
Talk with me.
KBLA Talk
Listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
We're in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Tomorrow on Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns, the creator and the executive producer of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. What's the Word meets Reflectivity with Raymond Dix Jr. Dr. Raymond Dix Jr. will be joining us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. program with Gina Towns, our producer, along with, I believe, John Diggles is going to round up the week with us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And Johnny, before we go back to tariffs, I'd like to ask you, our very special regular contributor, Dr. Johnny Mack, is with us. Johnny, how can we support your work?
Thanks for asking, Jesse. TheWorldHouseProject.org is our website. Again, TheWorldHouseProject.org. And if one goes there, you'll find out about our work. And you'll also find a little button where you can click on that button and make a tax-deductible contribution to our work.
Johnny, I'm so very proud of your work and look forward to supporting your work as well. Hey, Johnny, listen, you just shared with us before we came forward, and of course, you know, at the top of the hour, 3 minutes for a word of hope for you. Johnny, tariffs are a form of violence. A weaponized tariff. I've never heard about it that way, Johnny.
Yeah, Jesse, that's where I was headed. These man-made tools that are designed to create and build the World House, or at least accommodate us within the World House, to make us comfortable in the World House, to organize and design our World House, to determine who lives where and enjoys the amenities of the World House. And tariffs are simply one of those tools. The question is, how do you use the tools and who benefits from those tools? And tariffs can be used as a weapon. Even, Jesse, watch this now, tariffs can be used as a weapon of mass destruction. And so, again, it's important to be conscious of what's really happening in the world today and not go for the plain and simple and confusing explanations and excuses that are given by those who don't wish us well, but rather are only looking out for their interests and the interests of their own. So yes, tariffs can be weapons and even weapons of mass destruction. And that seems to be what they're doing to too many lives today.
Johnny, the various forms of violence are so profound that they are wrapped up in language that we consider part of the economy itself. When tariffs have historically been exercised to balance trade or to create conditions favorable to U.S. businesses, or even the removal of tariffs to give struggling countries in the third world access to markets that they normally wouldn't have access to for the purposes of feeding their own people and providing basic healthcare, housing, infrastructure within their own countries. How tariffs are used can be used as a form of violence. And what we know about this administration and the particular level of depravity that we've seen from our nation's leader on these questions is that almost everything that he touches or uses is designed to be violent. It's just designed that way. I mean, you have to read. Nonviolence isn't just sitting in at a lunch counter. Nonviolence isn't just the way in which we cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge or the way we take our seat on a bus. I mean, violence is couched in language that doesn't seem violent. It's part of the moray of the society itself. And hence Dr. King's call for a revolution of values, meaning that these man-made tools can be used for good, but I don't know if I'm quoting Shakespeare here, but good is only good if it's in the hands of he who is good. That the same Bible, the same stories, not in the hands of Jesus, but in the hands of someone who chooses to weaponize the Bible, can make the Bible a very, very violent and a very, very evil document. Now, I know that someone is going to push back on that. I am saying that the Bible has to be approached with the pure of heart. The stories have to be approached with an empathetic eye of, literally, I talked about it at my father's service, a stranger who comes into contact with people who need hope. And in that hope, he changes the trajectory of their lives, whether it's at the well, whether it's thieves on the cross, whether it's a prostitute about to be stoned. To them, he was a stranger who stepped into their lives for a moment and changed the trajectory of their reality. Johnny, we have about 3 minutes before we come forward for your word of hope.
Wow, Jesse, that the way you frame it is so profound and reminds me of the biblical text of faith and hope. That is the relationship of faith and hope, Jesse. And, we don't have to necessarily spiritualize these words. They can be very down to earth and practical in our lives. And I'm reminded that faith is the substance of things hoped for. And so what is our hope? What do we believe in? What do we have faith in? What are we hoping for? And so when I think about hope, I'm also reminded that that word faith is in the Greek, faith is the title deed of hope. The Greek word is hypostasis. So faith, hypostasis, the title deed of things hoped for. And the substance, the text goes on to say, of things not seen. And that's what we today must have. We must claim that title deed of faith, and then we must exercise that faith, because faith without works, the Bible goes on to say, is what, Jesse?
It's dead.
It's dead.
I mean, it's dead. It is assassinated and crucified. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We've been in the World House with Johnny Mack. Johnny, thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you.
Looking forward to Fat Meat Fridays tomorrow with Dr. Raymond Dix and our regular contributor and creator, Gina Towns, as well as John Diggles. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward right here. Stay tuned on our station.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.